Here is episode 9 of the History of MTWS. In the last episode, I talked about the 2014 5th anniversary season, and this episode, I'm going to talk about the 2015 season. And as of today, in 2020, the last regular season series of MTWS. And man, that's going to be a long talk about, and of course, the next episode I'll talk about why MTWS has not come back since as a series. But we're going to be talking about strictly 2015 here, the last season. So get ready, this is going to be a very nostalgic time to talk about. So when we last left off, it was February 2015, and I just wrapped up the 2014 championship, with Crush and Run getting its first racing championship, Nitro getting its first freestyle title and second overall. Although I had a lot of expectations to continue on the season into 2015, I actually was unsure at first if I was going to do 2015. I was very undecided actually. But I eventually decided to do it, although I had a lot of sinking feelings like this actually could be the final series. But I managed to push through and did it. Now the first big thing was, remember last episode where I talked about I made 7 new trucks for the 2014 season and they were going to replace a bunch of trucks and it never ended up happening? Well, this time around I decided I'm going to do it. I was going to retire 10 trucks of the MTWS family and bring 10 new trucks in. I didn't want to do it, but a 50 truck league just really was not going to work out. It needed to stay 40 for right now. So, those brand new trucks were called Bone Crusher, Damage Control, Polar Storm, Total Chaos, Venom, War Machine, and Yatsura. And for each special trucks, one, Monster Jam, of course being like a spin-off of Grinder or the MTWS truck, the truck for Monster Jam. Of course, I didn't know at the time, after I made this truck, that 2015 would be the beginning of the massive decline that Monster Jam would have. And of course, the 2015 season, I would make like my main goal to make as good of tracks as possible to show off that I can make better tracks than Feld was at the time, and still to this day. And then of course Red Alert, which was actually a reference to the Command & Conquer Red Alert series, which is a game series that I loved growing up. And then of course Pokemon, as it was debuted in the 2014 Championship Encore. Team Pokemon, after being away for 2 years, was finally back. And sadly, the 10 trucks that were retired were Air Rage, Aquatic Beast, Badass, Dark Beast, Eliminator, Hearts Ablaze, and Monster Wheels, Seismic Crush, and Supercharger. Also, the MTWS truck was quasi-retired. It was retired in terms of competing in events, although of course it would compete in future events, but it was retired in terms of competing in the actual series, but the truck would still remain around for promotional reasons. So MTWS would technically now have its maximum fleet of 41 trucks, which it still does to this day. Then came April 2015, which I don't know if it was this year or last year, but this was possibly the first year where I released the schedule without considering the NFL, because historically, if I didn't mention this in 2014, I would do from 2009 to at least 2012, possibly 2014, I would set up the schedule based upon whether or not NFL teams were playing that week in that stadium or not. So if a team was playing that week at home, I would not have an MTWS game, event that week as well. But in 2015, or maybe in 2014, because I'm not sure if I remember, I scrapped that. And also, for the sake and ease of doing the season openers, I changed the schedule formula and the tradition of having the first MTWS event of the season being on the last Wednesday of August to the 4th Sunday in August. That way, I would have a whole week to make the next track instead of having only 4 days or whatever it was to make the track, which of course in 2014, when I did the Baltimore and Las Vegas event, I had a lot of trouble making that St. Louis track, actually, believe it or not. So that 4 extra days would be useful. But the 2015 schedule was released, and of course, it had some changes to the schedule. No extra live events like it was last year, where I did Detroit and Foxborough out of the blue live. But it would be the season openers, the season finales, the 2015 Runners-Up Cup, and the 2015 Championship, plus one live event in September, October, November, December, following with a Thanksgiving event as well. Plus, the major highlights would be MTWS going to Australia for the first time in Melbourne for the International Series event. Mexico City and Toronto would get a live event, which would be the first time Mexico City would get a live event. And of course, for the first time ever, Canada would get a second Canadian show, and the first time outside of Toronto, as it would be heading to the Pacific Northwest of Vancouver, which was really cool and all that. And of course, we made a bunch of debuts that year too, which we'll be getting to a little bit later on. After all the hard work I did in 2014 making the tracks, because remember, historically, like I said, for live shows, after I would do a non-live show, that next day during the NFL games, I would make the next track and start filming that day as well, like make the track in 3 hours. After 2014, where I'd had all those live events near the end of the year, I realized it's not going to work this time. I can't do the high quality that I was planning on doing for MTWS this year and make those tracks very soon, like within less than a few hours. I had to have more time to do it. So this year, I decided for the live shows, I'm going to make the tracks ahead of time. Much ahead of time. Months ahead of time and all. And that's what I did. So, Atlanta, Oakland, Melbourne, and at least Mexico City, those events, which were from August to October of 2015, I made those tracks back in July of 2015. Green Bay, Minneapolis, Syracuse, those were made more into the summer as well, maybe into the fall. And then finally, El Paso, I made that track in October of 2015, 2 months ahead of time before the event happened. And of course, I actually did a tutorial, a really bad tutorial too, on how to make M2 tracks, making the Oakland track that month. And then for the Runners-Up Cup and the Championship, I made those tracks like in November and December of 2015, 2 months at least before their respective events happened. And that gave me much more time to make really unique obstacles and tracks and all that. And of course, I had to make a whole bunch of new stadium models for a bunch of stadiums. So yeah, it was very important that I had those months ahead of time to work on the stuff. Because if I did that right then and there, oh god, I would have never been able to finish them all in time. And by the way, the 2015 championship track would be the last track I would make with some help on the Dell. After 6 plus, almost 7 years of making tracks on the Dell, the 2015 championship track would be the last track I would make with any sort of help on the Dell. After the 2015 championship, I was exclusively making tracks on my desktop as I do today. Although all the non-live events I still made on the desktop, but all the live events I made with help on the Dell. Also this year would be the first time I would add commentary to the live events, as I finally got a mic and actually was able to do commentary for events, although it was so bad, crappy quality back then, but hey, it was the first time, so it was the best I could do. So the quality of the events, once again, improved from previous years. The 2015 MTWS season began on August 23rd, with the first event on the East Coast part of the season opener being in Atlanta. The first time ever an event in Atlanta was live, and this track was crazy too. I brought back my original bus stack, van stack, backflip wall combo, and of course, for the first time ever, we brought out a train stack. Yep, an actual diesel locomotive as an obstacle. This was on one of the crazier MTM2 tracks that were made in the mid-2000s, I believe it was, that I remember enjoying a lot playing when I was a teenager. So I actually got that obstacle and put it on this track. And the event was nuts. Of course, Crush and Run, the defending racing champion, was third place in qualifying. Wild Ride got the #1 qualifier. And incredible Mad Dog actually flipped off the bus stack into qualifying run and ended up getting a DNF. But in a wild night of racing, Mad Dog, despite being last place in qualifying, made it all the way to the finals, where it had to go up against the defending racing champion Crush and Run. But Crush and Run showed why it was the defending racing champion in a close race to get the first win as the racing champion. Freestyle started off with the rookie trucks, as Damage Control came out, started off with an 18, Yatsura came out right afterwards with a 26. It'll be several trucks later where Monster Jam put up an incredible, stunning run, including getting the first backflip of the night, and ended up shocking everyone by taking the lead with a 33, which I believe was the highest scoring run outside of the Fountain trucks when they were first made in 2009 for a rookie truck to get in freestyle. Crush and Run tried to go for the double down, had a great run, including jumping over a camper, but in the end it fell short of the double down, only got a 29. The big gun started to come out as Wild Ride came out and had an incredible run, and actually tied Monster Jam for the lead. And later on, Eruption came out and had a stunning, incredible run in its first event with a new body after debuting the championship, and took the lead with a 38. Absolutely stunning. Blood Rage came out, put up an incredible run, including knocking the camper off the step up, but blew its transmission in its run, prevented it from going for the win. And then the Freestyle King, Impala, came out and showed why it was the Freestyle King by going for a Leduc leap to start off freestyle, which I believe was the first time anyone did it in MTWS, and came out with an incredible run and ended up tying Eruption with a 38. And Nitro, the defending freestyle champion, came out with a Leduc leap as well, even more spectacular with an incredible save off the van stack, but unfortunately for it, it flipped too early as Eruption Impala started off the season with wins in freestyle. Followed by Atlanta, we went out to Oakland for the West Coast part of the event, the first time Oakland had a live event, and of course Outlaw, the former racing champion, showed why it was, as it would get the #1 qualifier. But unfortunately, it would get beaten by Patriot, who was on a roll that night, and Shatter, who had its name changed by getting rid of the exclamation point and a whole new theme entirely, made it to the finals against Patriot, and Patriot looked like it was going to get the win, but actually hit the turning car on the final turn and flipped over, giving the victory to Shatter. More of the rookie trucks continued to show how they were good in freestyle, as War Machine came out first and put up a great run and started off with a 27. How about that? And then Red Alert came out with another incredible run and actually took the lead with a 29. Then Crazy Bull. Oh my god, Crazy Bull, who was not really that well known for freestyle, would begin 2015 by showing how well it was going to be in freestyle year, as it came out with an incredible freestyle and ended up taking the lead with a 35. Crazy Bull, the non-real freestyler, putting up a sick run to take the lead by that much. It was stunning that night. After many trucks tried and failed, Shatter came out to try and take the double down, and actually would be in contention for the double downs that put up an incredible run and tied Crazy Bull with a 35. Then came out Outlaw to wrap it up by putting up an incredible run to try and win freestyle once again, as it went nuts. Unfortunately, in bonus time and near the end of regulation, it hit the wall, which unfortunately locked up both front left tires, so Outlaw could not do anything pretty much after that, but it was still just enough to edge out Shatter and Crazy Bull for the win to start off 2015. What an incredible season opener it was. So then we got to the next non-live events, as we went to Houston on August 30th, and Crush and Run once again won racing, and Crazy would win freestyle for God, the first time in who knows how long. And of course, around this time in 2015, Crazy would start rebounding from its slump from 2013 to 14, start becoming one of the better freestylers once again. Then on September 6th, we went to Foxborough, where Eruption would get another sweep, just like it did 3 years ago earlier in Seattle. And then we went to Fargo, North Dakota, as this was the first time we went to Fargo, And this event was also special because this was the first event in MTWS history, not only that, but MTM2, where I actually figured out how to make in-game pictures and screenshots. All the screenshots of tracks I took beforehand were always on tracks, the editor I used to make tracks on the game. But this time, from now on, I started being able to make the pictures in-game. So the quality of the tracks became much better afterwards in terms of the pictures. And Crazy Bull would get the double down in their debut in Fargo, which would actually be an incredible trend for Crazy Bull, where we get numerous double downs in 2015. It was incredible. Then we headed to Melbourne for the first ever MTWS event in Australia for the International Series. And I done the first ever over-under style race in MTWS history. And that track actually took a lot of work to try and figure out how to get fair and equal. But in the end, it actually was fair and equal. And both trucks had an equal chance to win on that track. And the finals was crazy as Fireball would lose to Impala. Pokemon blew its engine in its bonus time freestyle. And Crazy would have a sick run, including starting off by destroying a camper that was put on top of the van stack. It took the lead with a 36, but that would not last for long, as Impala would come out soon afterwards and take the lead with a 37. And then Nitro came out there and defended its title by tying Impala for the win. And then we wrapped up September in Baltimore, where Thunderbolt would win racing, and Monster Jam would get its first freestyle win on that track. We then got into October of 2015 as we headed down to Miami, where Bling got a very rare racing win, and Crazy once again showing why it's becoming back as the freestyle king, as it put up an incredible run, got a score of 40 to win freestyle, and ended up the night stuck in the semi-trailer at the end of its run as it went out there for nearly 5 minutes. It was incredible. Then, the next week, we headed to Mexico City for another live event, the first ever live event in Mexico City. And it was an incredible event. Outlaw, of course, got the #1 qualifier. And the finals would be Outlaw and Crazy Bull. The rivalry would be renewed. And this time, though, Crazy Bull would get its revenge and win racing. And incredible freestyle highlights. But in the end, it would be Outlaw winning freestyle, being prevented by Crazy Bull from getting another sweep. And of course, this event was incredible. It was a tough track to make, though. And then for the first time in 3 years, MTWS went back to Seattle, as Power Forward would actually prevent Crazy Bull from getting another sweep, as Crazy Bull would win racing and freestyle with an incredible run, and Venom had its incredible freestyle, including going for the backflip in its run, but just fell short of getting the win. And then to wrap up October, we went down to Orlando for the first time in 3 years. Wild Ride got the #1 qualifier. Freaking Outlaw would beat Mad Dog once again to win racing. And Impala putting up, at the time, 1 point short of a perfect score of 40 regulation, 4 bonus points to beat its arch rival Thunderbolt in freestyle for another dominant freestyle victory. It was now November of 2015 as we start off the month on the first day by going to Detroit. And an incredible event. Power Forward would be last place in qualifying because all the really good racers actually struggled on this track, surprisingly. But Power Forward proved up to the challenge, as it would make it as last place qualifier all the way to the finals, where it would win racing. And we had another tie in freestyle as Thunderbolt and Nitro would get the win. And one incredible highlight was Prowler, who went for the backside of semi-trailer, got a massive sky wheelie, destroyed the whole entire rear axle as it fell apart. Both rear wheels came off, but managed to drive all the way, drag itself across the track before getting stuck on top of the van stack, which I have a picture of. That was incredible. Then MTWS was back on the road, this time for Toronto, for another live event. As MTWS went to Toronto live for the first time since 2012, and Patriot would once again get the #1 qualifier for the second straight week. but it would not get far, unfortunately, on this tough racing track. In the end, the finals would be Flying Falcon and Nitro, but Nitro would get the race and win. And Incredible Night had a really tough freestyle track, and the funny thing was, we had a van stack out there. It was a steep van stack, and that van stack on the steep up jammer side actually almost could have gotten a backflip off it. So once one truck discovered it, everyone else tried to do it soon afterwards. So everyone tried, but no one can get the backflip, unfortunately. But Nitro had an incredible run to freestyle to take the win with a 35 to get the double down. And if it wasn't for Patriots stopping it, Nitro would have swept in this event as well, as it was the number 2 qualifier. Unbelievable. Then MTWS went to San Antonio for the first time ever, and hoping to have an incredible show as Power 4 got the number 1 qualifier, made it all the way to the finals, but Blood Rage would get it in the end. An incredible run, Red Alert in freestyle, put up its best freestyle of its career, a 32. Wild Ride came out later and took the lead with a 33, but last up was Mad Dog, who had an incredible run and had a violent flip go with 3 seconds left in regulation, smash into the wall, but its run was just good enough for it to get the win with a 34. And then we went down to Tampa, where Blood Rage would get the number 1 qualifier. Crazy Bull would win race, including beating the arch rival Outlaw in the semifinals, but Outlaw would get the last laugh as it would win freestyle with a 38, which was a blowout as it won freestyle by 8 points. Then it was Thanksgiving as MTWS made its debut in Green Bay, as the track was set up for Brett Favre's getting his number retired and get entered into the Packers Hall of Fame that night when the Packers played the Bears on Thanksgiving. And of course, 2 weeks earlier, whatever it was, Paris had their terrorist attack, so I actually edited the track to add France's flag on there as a tribute for that event. And MTWS had a special France-themed paint for the tribute as well. As it was only the second MTWS event for Thanksgiving, Mad Dog would get the number 1 qualifier. We had incredible photo finishes throughout the entire night, including Crush and Run and the Outlaw, possibly in their first race since their championship race in 2014. Crush and Run would fall to Outlaw this time in a photo finish, which would set up the finals between Nitro and Outlaw would get the race and win on an incredible night. And one highlight in that event was Wild Ride actually getting stuck on top of the tanker on the track. Monster Jam came out right afterwards and actually jumped over Wild Ride numerous times, but then Mad Dog, of course, in its win run, would knock Wild Ride off the tanker and have an incredible run that night. But there was still one more event in November, as we went off for the first time ever in Vancouver, the only other Canadian city MTWS has went to, and it was stunning as Pokemon would get the number 1 qualifier and actually would go on to win racing in an upset, beating Thunderbolt in the finals. It was incredible, and Pokemon trying to go for the sweep, put up an incredible run and actually started off with a 31. But unfortunately it would not be meant to last, as it was eventually taken over, and Thunderbolt would just edge out its arch rival Impala for the freestyle win with a 37. December started with a live event as MTWS would be heading back to Minneapolis for the first time since October of 2011, this time in TCF Bank Stadium, as the current stadium of Bank of America was not built still at the time. And Thunderbolt would get the number 1 qualifier in that event, just edging out Nitro, and the finals would be the finals that we all wish we could see every time, as Thunderbolt and Impala would go at it. But as always, the tradition continued as Thunderbolt would beat Impala, and freestyle was crazy. As tradition in the years of going to Minneapolis, Patriot would of course continue to go out first and put up an incredible run out there and start off freestyle with a 32. It was incredible. And Patriot's run would last all the way up to Outlaw, who struggled all the previous years in Minneapolis, would put up an incredible run and took the lead with a 34, and would break the tradition in Minneapolis where only Nitro would edge out Patriot, as Outlaw became the first other truck besides Nitro to do that. And sadly, after Outlaw came out Thunderbolt trying to go for sweep, but something happened to the steering when it went for the step up and ended up going sideways into the semi-trailer and flipping over, only using 8 seconds of the run, preventing the sweep. And that left the door wide open for Thunderbolt to get its revenge from losing in the finals, to go out there and once again show why it was the Freestyle King, put up an incredible run, and took the lead and then the win with a 37. Then we headed to San Diego, where Power Forward would get the #1 qualifier, but in the end it would be Fireball beating Eruption to get its first racing win in a long time. And Freestyle was actually tough. Not a lot of high-scoring runs on that track, and finally finished it up with Crazy trying to break a tie between Fireball and Wild Ride to prevent Fireball from getting the double down. Had an incredible run, flipped before going into bonus time, but it was just good enough to take the win with a 34. Then, going into next week's event in New Orleans, which was scheduled for December 20th, I had a little bit of a dilemma. You see, on the 19th, I had to go down to Baltimore for a family Christmas gathering, and it was going to cause problems because we were going to stay over one of my family members' house at night and then come back the next day, which was going to be the 20th. So that would be the same day the New Orleans event would happen. And of course, the next week would be the season finales. So I figured I'm probably not going to have enough time to do the New Orleans event on Sunday, and when we finally get back, and then finally get to work on the season finales. So I had to change the schedule. MTWS in New Orleans would be the first ever event in MTWS history to have its date changed from the 20th to December 18th, which made it the first ever Friday event, and Friday evening as well on Twitter. So for the event itself, Mad Dog would get the #1 qualifier, and the finals would be Blood Rage edging out Impala for the win, and Thunderbolt once again making up for its terrible run in Minneapolis by getting the freestyle win here and looking good going towards the championship. And the next day, when we went out to Baltimore, I was this crazy. I actually took my whole desktop down there, and after the family gathering, when we went to my aunt's house to stay the night, I set up the desktop and did all the filming for Syracuse that night into the next morning before we left. So in the span of just a few hours, I filmed all of qualifying and all of racing for Syracuse. That's how much work I got done. So that date change helped me a lot. So it was now December 27th, the season finales of the 2015 MTWS season, and what turned out to be the final 2 regular season events as of right now. And to wrap up the season, I decided to go to 2 shows, 2 of the cities I've never gone to, Syracuse and El Paso. But of course, we start off in Syracuse for the East Coast part of the event. Blood Rage would get the #1 qualifier, and with that momentum as the #1 qualifier, it would make it all the way to the finals, where it would face Fireball and get the win to help get itself even closer to clinching a spot in the 2015 championship, and decided to go for the sweep with an incredible Freestyle 2 that took the lead early on with a 33, but it would not last, as Outlaw, who struggled that night in qualifying racing, would put up an incredible run to take the win with a 36, showing why not only did it just clinch its spot in the 2015 championship, but to show why it's going to go for its freestyle title back. And then finally, we wrapped up the 2015 regular season by heading out to El Paso for the first ever event there in the West Coast part of the season finale. It was a tough track, but Shatter would get the #1 qualifier. After it lost momentum at the start of the year in Oakland, it failed to make it to the finals, and the finals would be Crazy Bull and Wild Ride, and Crazy Bull would get another racing win to clinch its spot in the championship. Freestyle would be tough, and unbelievably in that night, there was a stretch where trucks were just breaking and flipping so early in their runs. It was incredible. It was actually embarrassing. It reminded me a lot of like World Finals 16. It It was really embarrassing how that happened. It was so strange and weird. And with everyone struggling that night, plus it was wide open with not a lot of really good freestylers there, it opened it up for Bling to get a rare freestyle win as well, and giving it strong momentum to go into the 2015 championship. It was now January of 2016, as it was now time for the 2015 Runners-Up Cup. Just like the previous year, the runner-ups that didn't make it to the championship would compete here in both racing and freestyle. So, it got started with Destroyer, who stunned everyone by not making it to the championship, ended up getting the #1 qualifier, edging out Pokemon, and Shatter, who also was surprising everyone by not making it to the championship after the strong start of the year. But of course, to no one's surprise, the finals was Destroyer versus Shatter, and Shatter would beat Destroyer by 1/100th of a second to clinch the racing win for the Runners-Up Cup, which got a repaint as it was repainted as a Cherish Ball to commemorate the 20th anniversary in 2016, put up an incredible run, stunning everyone, went out there for like 4 or 5 minutes or whatever it was, and had an incredible save off the bus stack at the end of its run, which of course didn't count towards the score, but it didn't matter as Pokemon would get the win with a 36. It was a stunning victory for Pokemon to get the freestyle win for the Runners-Up Cup to wrap it up for this series. But of course, as tradition for the Runners-Up Cup, the intermission between race and freestyle would have qualifying for the 2015 championship, and Outlaw would get the #1 qualifier for the first time ever with a time of 14.49, as Thunderbolt would get #2. Monster Jam surprised everyone by getting #3. The defending racing champion Crush Run got 4th place. Patriot was 5th. Fireball 6th. Blood Rage 7th. And Mad Dog 8th to wrap up the trucks getting the buys into round 2. And of course, we had a lot of trucks that actually struggled that night that usually I thought was going to be really good that night. Nitro, Eruption, Impala, Power Forward, Wild Ride, Crazy Bull, and all of them struggled that night to everyone's surprise, especially since a lot of them, especially Crazy Bull, was figured to do very, very good in racing that night. And then, it was February 6th. The final championship event and the final regular season event in some form of MTWS. The 2015 MTWS Championship began. As it was an incredible night of racing. We had incredible upsets though, especially when we had Prowler upset Crazy Bull in round 1, ending Crazy Bull's chances of getting a racing title that we all thought it finally had a chance to get that year. Round 2 continued afterwards as Outlaw would beat Wild Ride, setting itself up in good contention, because remember, outside of Eruption in 2014, the #1 qualifier was either one and done or won the racing championship, so it was a question on what would happen now for Outlaw. And then, of course, Eruption got beaten by Patriot, Impala got beaten by Crush and Run, Monster Jam actually made it to the quarterfinals, and Nitro would lose to Fireball, which would give Nitro the first time ever in its championship appearances to not make it to the quarterfinals, and Power Forward would go on to lose to Thunderbolt. It was then the quarterfinals as Outlaw would beat Mad Dog in their rematch from the 2012 semifinals. Crush and Run would hold on to beat Patriot. Monster Jam would pull off the upset over Fireball and make it to the semifinals as a rookie. Everyone was stunned, and once again Thunderbolt would fall short of making it to the semifinals, with Blood Rage being the one that knocked it off. The semifinals was set with 4 trucks remain, as it would start off with the rematch of the last 2 finals events in the semifinals, as the defending racing champion Crush and Run would have to face Outlaw. This time around, Outlaw would get its revenge, beat Crush and Run, and dethrone Crush and Run, as Outlaw once again made it back to the finals and still remains the only truck to have been to all 6 semifinals at least. And then in the next bracket, Monster Jam Incredible Run would be thwarted, as Blood Rage would get the win over Monster Jam to make it to the finals for the first time ever in the championship. So, the finals came down to this. 2009, it was Outlaw destroying Crazy Bull. 2010, it was Nitro edging out Mad Dog in a photo finish. 2011, it was Power Forward beating Impala when it should have been Outlaw. 2012, Outlaw beating Crush and Run. And then 2014, Crush and Run getting its revenge on Outlaw. This time now, Outlaw making it to the finals for the third straight time would have to go up against Blood Rage. Up and coming and looking forward to finally get its first racing win. They went down Thunder Alley in a very close race, but in the turn, Outlaw would have the better turn and would edge out Blood Rage to win the 2015 Racing Championship, its third racing title, and its fifth overall, continuing to show why it is Tom Meents of MTWS. And then, of course, it came to freestyle. Unfortunately for freestyle, this freestyle track had the most work I ever put in my MTM2 track. I spent 100 hours making this track. The majority of the obstacles out there I made by scratch, so that's part of the reason why it took forever. And unfortunately, due to all the high quality textures that were out there, so many of them, the game lagged with the track. It was so sad. The only way you can drive on that track is if you drive in driver cam, if you want to drive freestyle with the non-damaged track. I tried everything. I lowered the face vertice count on the track, which made the obstacles look really weird. I did it for the trucks as well. It did not help, and because of that, due to the lag, this event would have no bonus obstacles, not by choice, but by force of technical limitations, unfortunately. So freestyle started off with Crusher getting a 24. Crush and Run came out right afterwards and got 24 to start off with the tie. But then the third truck out, Crazy Bull, trying to make up for its terrible performance in qualifying racing, had its best freestyle in the championship. Was the first one of the night to go for the backflip and did an incredible sky wheelie off the van stack onto the bus stack, completely destroying the bed section of the body, and had an almost incredible save too. And Crazy Bull took the lead with a 32 and looked like it was going to be leading for a while. The next bunch of trucks actually did pretty well out there. Stinger came out, got a 27 its debut. The Monster Razor went out, got a 28. Power Forward got a 27. Patriot finally put up a great freestyle in the championship and went out and got a 30, getting second place at the time. Red Alert came out, debuting a Birdie 2016 flag, and got a 30 as well. But then Eruption came out and had an incredible run and edged out Crazy Bull with a 33 to take the lead, basically halfway through the event. Flying Falcon, who couldn't compete last year and missed the event, actually put up a great freestyle and got a 29. Wild Ride came out, but unfortunately flipped too early and got a 23. And then a sad moment, Bling, who had a whole bunch of momentum, including winning the last freestyle of the regular season, hoped to do good in freestyle, flipped way too early and got a 6, which would actually be a trend in the next few years going into Vegas. Then Blood Rage, wanting to get the taste of defeat out of losing in the finals of racing, came out there and had a incredible freestyle and ended up tying Eruption with a 33. Fireball came out as we were getting the big guns of freestyle, but unfortunately got stuck in the straightaway after going off the triple into the wall, so it had to end its run with a 25. Prowler came out, but unfortunately, just like Bling, fell too short and only got a 10 in its freestyle. Outrage, in its debut in the championship, tried to put up a great run, and it did, but unfortunately only got a 31, just falling short of the lead. And then Shadowrun came out as another really good freestyler, but unfortunately, just like Bling, would flip way too early in freestyle, only getting a 13, and of course, that just like Bling, that would continue a trend of struggling in freestyle. Monster Jam came out and had a great freestyle, but of course the rookie just wasn't quite ready for the big guns yet, as it only got a 30. Then came the freestyle champions from before, as Mad Dog came out, had a great run, but unfortunately ended a little too short, only got a 29. Then Thunderbolt came out, had an incredible run, reminding us of its run in 2011, had a sick freestyle, and ended up taking the lead with a 34, trying to get its second freestyle title. With just 4 trucks remaining, The former Freestyle King Crazy, who was the runner-up for the title in 2014, came out, had a really strong freestyle, but unfortunately flipped right before bonus time and only got a 33, prevented from getting another freestyle win. Out next was Outlaw, going for the sweep now, and the first ever one in MTWS history, trying to make up too for the fact that it had a terrible freestyle the year before when it lost its freestyle title. It started off strong, but sadly early into the run, it would violently flip into the wall off the triple, almost clearing it, ending its chance for the sweep at only getting a 16, as it also continued to trend for Nitro, where it would struggle in freestyle in Vegas. 2 trucks remaining, and Thunderbolt was still leading, but it would have a next big challenge, as up next would be the Freestyle King and his arch rival, Impala. Impala showing why it was the Freestyle King and wanting to get revenge and beat Thunderbolt at the ultimate way to sting in the championship. Impala put up an incredible run, making up for how short it fell in 2014 with an incredible run. Big hit after another, did everything Thunderbolt did even bigger, and ended up taking the lead with a 37, which is the 3rd highest score in the championship history. Last up, though, was Nitro, trying to defend its title and get a 3rd title. It was going to have its hands full, though. It's going to have to beat a 37, but it got a 40 the year before, so it shouldn't be too hard to beat. Unfortunately for Nitro, it struggled throughout the run, but it still put up an incredible run. But when it was about to go into bonus time, it flipped too early and ended up only getting a 33. And with that, Impala won the 2015 MTWS Freestyle Championship. Its first freestyle title, its first title overall, and officially sealed it as the Freestyle King. And honestly, the only way Crazy would ever get its freestyle title back is if it got a freestyle championship. And that felt so good for Impala to beat Thunderbolt in the championship too. What a sweet, satisfying victory that was. And with that, the 2015 season was over. And unbeknownst to me, although I actually had a sinking feeling about this, which I'll talk about in the next episode, this would end up being the final event for MTWS as a regular season event. And of course, because of that right now, 5 years later, Outlaw and Impala still remain the defending champions. And unless a new season happens with the championships on the line, they're going to remain the defending racing freestyle champions. So I'll get to talking about the future of MTWS post the 2015 season, but that is the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed me talking about the 2015 season, the final season of MTWS, as the next few years are going to be quite tumultuous for MTWS as it began its series as an exhibition league. But that'll be another time. See you guys then when I talk about that, as I still got 3 more episodes of the series to talk about.